Hi everyone, my name is Linda Reid and everyone welcome back to another business skills webinar. We are being joined today by Tara Whitney from Whitney Consulting. Tara, what she doesn't know about grants is going to be a little bit most probably not needed to know, but Tara is proud to say a client of mine as well as a BBB member, and she's here today to share with you the wisdoms about how you get grants for business, what you need to know. And I would say working with Tara on her blogs and social media, there is some stuff that even I, after applying for grants and that sort of stuff, went, oh, I didn't know that, and I didn't know that. So today's going to be a great informative webinar for you to tap into the power of getting a grant for your business and knowing what you need to know to address those. So Tara, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about you.
So my background is I was a grants assessor for about 8 years for the Department of Regional Development over in WA. We have our Royalties for Regions program. So it's about $1 billion a year that was being spent in the regions, and you had to apply for funding for it. So I assessed all of the applications for funding for quite a lot of money. And that was for about 8 years. So I was the senior assessor there and set up all of their assessment processes and due diligence processes. So when I started Whitney Consulting, which was about 3 years ago, I decided that all staff needed to have a background as a previous grants assessor. So the staff I've since hired are also previous grants assessors, because I believe that that gives us a unique understanding of what it is that grants assessors are looking for, what's in their minds, what they're thinking, and how they score and evaluate funding submissions.
Yep.
So I've been doing that since for local governments, state governments, not-for-profit organisations, businesses, and even community sort of sporting groups and those sorts of things. I live in a regional area, so I do a lot for regions, but I also work, I do lots of federal government grants and lots of state government grants for various different states.
Wow, that is awesome. So Tara, I'm going to let you roll in because you've got a couple of points that you want to cover with us today. But guys, it's a Q&A session as well on grants. If you have a question on any specific type of grant, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the link to Tara's booking calendar for you to actually go and ask her those towards the end, because they're a little bit different. That she can't hold everything in the top of her head for every grant in every state, region, country. It would just be phenomenally hard to do. So I am going to let Tara delve into her world. I'm going to watch the live stream as well, guys, and hopefully be able to answer the question, be able to prompt the questions here on live stream. Please ask questions. This is your opportunity to learn and hear things along the way. So if you have a question about grants or applying for a grant or even where to find them, this is most probably the time to ask.
Yes, definitely. Please ask. All right. So in terms of when you're looking for a grant, I suppose the key thing that you need to think about is why would a funding body give me money? What is the purpose of them giving away money? Now, when it comes to businesses, you're pretty restricted as to who is going to give you money. It's going to be local, state or federal government. It's really a federal government that's going to give you money because they want you to succeed, because by you succeeding, you're growing the economy and you're getting jobs growth. So that's the purpose. That's why they're going to give you money, which means that they need you to show them that you are a viable business. You need to show them that you have a business plan, that you have a unique selling point, that you're addressing a pain point. You've got to show them you're a viable business because that's what they want. Now, in regards to finding grants, it's really important that you set yourself up to know what grants are available and what's coming out. The worst thing is if you find a grant the day after it closes or the day before, and then you've got to run around and try to get a grant application written.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy for businesses. It's a lot harder for not-for-profits and those sorts of organisations because the grants are everywhere and they're all over the web. But for businesses, you really are, as I said, looking at your local, state or federal government. So if it's a local government, I recommend you just contact them directly. Some local governments do see the value of providing grants for businesses, whereas others don't. So just contact your local government, your shire. When it comes to state, they don't tend to have a one-stop shop for all grants the way federal government does, but they do have a department in each state that focuses on businesses. So for example, Business Victoria. Yep. So any grants that are for a business will be advertised by that department and on that department's page. So you've got to look at that department and find out whether they have a newsletter, find out if they have a Facebook page, Twitter. Governments seem to love Twitter. So get on all of those social media accounts that one department is on, and check their websites. Get on any newsletter. So if they can send you a newsletter and you don't have to actually go and search for it, that's much easier. Now, federal government is really easy to find. Federal government makes it really nice. They have something called Grant Connect, which is a web page that has all grants on it, and everything, doesn't matter what it is, and that's at grants.gov.au. So all federal government grants are advertised there, and you can actually set your profile up. So you go in, you set up your keywords, your location, anything like that, and then any grant that relates to those keywords or matches those keywords, they will send you an email saying not only this is open, but also these are the forecast grants. These are ones that are coming up. So it gives you a bit more time to prepare. So federal government is awesome, and I definitely recommend that you go and sign yourself up, set your profile up, and just get those emails coming into your inbox. And social media as well, obviously, for the federal government departments as well. Also, if you are in a particular sector, so if you're working, you've got a business in arts or in natural resource management, go and find the organisations in that sector and find out if they have a newsletter. Find out what social pages they have, social media pages they have, because they will obviously advertise all grants that come up in their area of expertise. So some of those will be business related. So for example, where I am in the Wheatbelt region of Western Australia, we have Wheatbelt NRM, and they have a newsletter that they send out with all the NRM grants once a month. The other place you can find out about what grants are available is from professional grant writing companies. So there are people like myself who have professional grant writing companies, and we have a grants database that we can search for you. The key factor here is don't pay for information on grants. It is all freely available. It's all advertised freely. There are organisations that will actually try to charge you to join up to them so you can search their databases and you pay them so that you can find out about grants. All they're doing is taking freely available information and chucking it in a database. So you're paying for that, but you shouldn't need to. So for example, my company, if you want to contact us and say, this is what I'm looking for, here's the project I'm trying to do, here's what I want money for, we go away and we search our grant databases for free, and then we'll come back to you and say, here are a bunch of grants that might suit you. It's your job to then go away and look at the criteria and see whether you're eligible, but you don't need to pay for us to give you the information about what grants are around. And obviously we have social media pages as well. So we have a Facebook page, LinkedIn, that sort of thing that you can sign up to, and we will post grants information on there. And we have a grants newsletter. Yes, we have a grants newsletter. So we put that out once a month, and we send that out to your inbox, and it has all the grants that are open or upcoming, and you can get that information straight to your inbox. Fantastic. So that's the ways to find out about where grants are.
Right. Tara, just for everyone's note, I've just popped the blog post that you've got, Where Do I Find Grants? So I've just popped that one into both the chat and the live stream. We have just a question that I don't know if you want to answer now or you want to save it down the track. It's just come in on the live stream. It says, is it a good idea to set up a not-for-profit combined with my business to apply for not-for-profit grants which can relate to my business?
Yes.
Yes.
In short, yes. There are a lot more grants for not-for-profit organisations than there are for businesses. You can set up a not-for-profit and apply for grants, and that not-for-profit can then pay your business to deliver the service.
Ah, very cool.
So yes, that is a good idea. The thing is, though, often grants will require the not-for-profit to have a bit of a track record. Obviously, that's part of the viability to making sure that your not-for-profit is actually viable and going to do what it says. So it may take a little while for that not-for-profit to be functioning before you're actually going to get grants through it, because you have to demonstrate that you're capable. So, if you're thinking about setting it up just for one particular grant, it's probably not worth the effort. You're better off partnering with a not-for-profit that's existing and proven in that case. But if you are actually passionate about that area and want to start a not-for-profit in that area, it will certainly help you to get grants that you can then pay your business to do the work.
Fantastic. Interesting.
Now, in terms of actually applying for grants, so once you've found the grant, what I thought I would cover is a few common mistakes that we see a lot. So at Whitney Consulting, we not only write grants, but we also do review them. So if people want to save a bit of money, they can write the grant themselves and then send it to us for review. So obviously during that and my 8 years of assessing other grants as well, I've seen a lot of mistakes made, and there's a common theme with all of them. So I thought I'll go through those so that you guys can avoid making those mistakes when you're writing your applications. The first one is not planning your project. So if you see a grant and go, I want that money, I haven't got a project in mind yet, but it fits my business or my organisation. I'm going to now create a project just to apply for that grant.
Yep.
There will be a lack of information and a lack of detail and around that project, and that comes out in the grant application. If you haven't planned your project well, which means set out exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, got all of the people on board that you need to help, got your quotes, all that sort of thing, then it is going to shine through. So you must remember to plan your application, plan your project.
Yep.
Your assessor needs enough information to decide whether or not you as an organisation are capable of delivering what you say you're going to deliver, but also enough information to know whether or not your project will meet the outcomes they want. So they are giving away money for a reason, and they need to see that your project will meet that outcome. And if you haven't planned your project well, then you won't be able to show that. You won't be able to show that you are capable, your project will succeed, and it will meet their outcomes and their reasons for giving away money. The bulk of the work needs to be done before you even start writing. And you need evidence as well. So a lot of people will write an application and say it's going to cost $100,000 to do a certain thing, but there's no evidence there. You need to attach a quote, or you need to, if it allows you, or you need to explain how you've got to that $100,000. You know, it's based on a worker who costs $50 an hour working 20 hours a week, and this is how it's going to deliver. What are the calculations? You need to evidence it and break it down so that they can actually assess whether or not that is a reasonable claim. The second thing that people often do and make a mistake is they don't answer the question. So we all know our projects so well that we go in and we want to talk about the benefits and sell our project and say it's going to be so wonderful, this business is going to be awesome, it's going to do all of these wonderful, wonderful things. That wasn't actually the question that was asked.
Yep.
Grants assessors have to score you based on how well you've answered that particular question. So there will be a question about the outcomes and about the benefits of them providing you with this money, but not every question is about that. Some of the questions will be about partnerships and whether you're partnering with anyone. If you haven't answered that question, you get a 0. It doesn't matter how wonderful your project is. So you've got to remember to answer the question. Within that, there are often grants that ask a question, but they also have assessment criteria, which is not the question. So the question might be, explain your project, but the assessment criteria talks about what it is they're looking for. Yep. You've got to make sure when you answer the question, which is explaining your project or describing your project, you are addressing the assessment criteria within your answer. So I recommend that you print off the assessment criteria, have it taped to your computer or sitting beside you, but always have that assessment criteria in mind. So when you're answering the questions, refer back to it, use their words. So if they have said that you need to have partnerships, talk about my partners in this are, I am partnering with, use the words that they use so that you can clearly demonstrate to the assessor how you've met that particular assessment criteria. When you've finished writing, go back. When you read the questions, read them not only as to whether you've answered the question, have I described my project, but also read them against the assessment criteria. Make sure that every single one of those assessment criteria are addressed at some place throughout your application. The other mistake that is commonly made is people think about ourselves. We think about, I want this money for my business to do what I want to do. You need to think about the people that are giving away the money, not yourself. Think about, why are they giving away the money? What is it they're trying to achieve? And then how can I demonstrate to them that I will achieve that? what is it that they're going to be concerned about? So if I was giving away this money, what would I think was a worry about my business?
Yep.
Oh, it hasn't been in business for longer than a year. That might be a concern. Okay, how can I address that and answer that concern before it's even becomes in the mind of the assessor? So think from the assessor's point of view. What can I see is a negative about my organisation, my business, or about my project? And how can I address that before they think of it? So an example of how you can do that is to talk about your previous successes.
Yep.
So they are going to be concerned that you won't be able to deliver what you say. So talk about where you have previously done something similar and how it was a success and what the outcomes were. Talk about how you have previously managed grant funding, if you have had grant funding before, and how you acquitted it all beautifully and you always reported on time and the project was a success. So give those examples, or if you don't have those specific examples, something as close to it as you can. Link it as similar as possible. So if you don't have previous grant funding experience, we'll talk about your financial management practices, because even though you haven't managed a grant before, you have all of these amazing processes in place to manage your finances so they can be assured that you will spend the money on what you say you're going to and there won't be any issues. Now, the biggest problem that I do see in grant applications is there are 6 key grant questions that you must address in every application, and people don't address them. Now, often that is because the grant application itself is not set up well. It doesn't ask them specifically, but you need to ensure you address them in every grant. It doesn't matter what the size. Obviously, grants come in all different sizes, from small, $5,000 right up to millions and millions of dollars. And there are 6 questions that have to be addressed no matter what the size, no matter what the organisation. The first one of those is why, which we've already touched on a bit. Why is your project needed? You need to prove that there is a problem that your project will address or an opportunity that it's going to capitalise on. Why is it needed? What is the demand for your project? Why will it be needed to be done? What would be the problem if the project didn't happen or your funding wasn't received? And then why do you need the funding? So yes, the project's needed, but why do you need money to deliver the project? If you've got millions and millions of dollars in the bank, you don't need the money. You can deliver the project without the grant. So there's the 2 whys there that need to be addressed. The second question out of those 6 is what? What exactly will you do? Now, this is a question that seems really simple, but in most applications, I struggle to find the what, because we talk about the benefits. I'm going to do this project and it's going to be wonderful and wonderful and wonderful. And what I want to know as an assessor, what will you do? Exactly what will be the output? We will hire 3 people and we will construct this facility. These are the tasks we will do as part of the project. This is the what. That can be really hard to find in an application because people don't think to put it in there. They don't think to tell the story. We will do this and then this and then this, and this will be the outcome. They just think about the benefits and the outcome and how wonderful it's going to be. So don't forget to say exactly what you will do with the money. The third question is how. So how will you do it? How will you deliver the project? How will you make sure that it is open and transparent, especially for government funding, which is what a business grant will be, because no one is going to give a business money unless it's an investor, I suppose. But in terms of a grant, a government is going to be the one giving you the money. So they need to know that all of your processes are open and transparent. So the how talks about how will you manage the project? Who's going to do it? So you've got a project manager, what's their experience? Is there a board or a director or somebody that's overseeing the project, is watching over it and making sure that there are, everything is done to budget, to time frame, within scope. What are the governance processes? So talk about the project management in this, talk about the governance, talk about your procurement. So if you're going to be purchasing things, how will you purchase them? Will you just get a mate of a mate because I know that he sells it? Or will you actually have a procurement policy, which is about how you will get best value for money? You must get 3 quotes or whatever the policy is. So all of the how is about how you will implement the project and how you will deliver it. when, which is obviously the time frames. So don't be unrealistic with your time frames. Don't forget to give them time to assess your grant. If you start your project a week after the grant closes, they're not going to have had time to assess it. Most grants are not retrospective. There are one or two exceptions, but most are not. So you cannot start the project until you have received the grant, until you secured it. So time frames should be broken down into realistic time frames. Give yourself time. Rarely do things finish on time. So be realistic. The fifth question is viability. Now, this means showing the assessor that you're capable of doing what you said you're going to do. What we're talking about when we talk about viability is there anyone needed for you to deliver the project? Do you need the local shire's permission? Do you need approvals? Do you need people? So is there a market that you're trying to get? If you're trying to access a market, you need to prove that is accessible, that you will be able to access that market. So viability is about proving that you are capable as an organisation, and that's about attaching evidence of your previous things that you've done, but it's also about the project and that it will be viable in itself. So evidencing the need, evidencing the fact that the market's there, evidencing the fact that attaching quotes to say this is proof that it will cost what we've said it will.
Yep.
And the sixth one is cost, detailing how much your project will cost. And providing quotes as evidence. Don't forget that in some grants there are requirements like an audit or signage if you're building a facility. Don't forget to put those costs in your budget as well, because you have to pay to have an independent audit. You need to put that in your budget because otherwise you'll be out of pocket. So I recommend anyone writing a grant goes through those 6 key questions: why, what, how, when, viability and cost. Go back over the application you've written and look and make sure you've addressed all of that in some place within that application. Are there any questions?
I was just about to say, there's been a lot of information, guys.
A lot of info.
Which is great, because that's what we need to know. So if anyone has any questions about the grant process or applying for grants, or even, how to explain your how or your what or your when or your why, because it's funny, Tara, because I'm listening to you talk and I'm going, oh, it's just the same as what a journalist wants in a story. It's just the same as a press release. They want all of those things. They're wanting to know what the viability and those sorts of things is. And guys, that point that Tara raised to you about at the end, particularly about, if there's an audit or there's signage or those sorts of things, make sure you do cost that in. I have been on the receiving end where we'd had grant money and it wasn't one I was involved in applying for, and then all of a sudden, we needed to do signage and an audit. And I was like, oh, ouch, that hurt. So it's about, and I think, Tara, the biggest thing I'd say about grants is it's not free money. You've still got to work for it. And I think that's what lots of business owners think. And there's a perception out there, just the same as the world of PR, that it's free. And it's not. You do have to work for it, guys. And you have to address the criteria as if you were paying for this yourself in lots of ways.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think I even wrote a blog where I used those exact words, which said it is not free money. Grants are not free money. You have to report on them. You have to equip them, but also you have to be able to show how it has had an impact. So you really need to understand how you're going to evaluate the impact that the funding has had on your business.
Yep.
So whether that means having a baseline data that you can then compare against at the end of the project to say, for example, my social media marketing reach has increased by X percentage, the analytics. You've got to have something like that you can point to show that this money that they gave you has had this impact. I have hired X number of people, or, even if it's not an additional hire, the staff that I do hire have extra hours now. They're being paid for doing extra hours because the business has increased. Whatever the outcome is that you've said you're going to achieve, you need to have a way to evaluate that as well, to show the funding body that you have succeeded.
Yes. Now, guys, talking about social media, I know the digital innovation grants are open in Queensland at the moment for those who are looking for that sort of stuff. So that's just one of the grants. And okay, let's think about it. We would obviously know that grants are there for not-for-profits and those sorts of things. But Tara, maybe what are some of the grants as business owners that they can apply for? Some of the things that maybe we don't even think about
Sure.
Because I know there's people before me who've gone, oh, what? I can apply for a digital innovation grant?
Yeah, well, those are some examples.
Yep.
There are digital grants. There are also just in most states have an innovation vouchers system.
Yep.
Federal even had one for a while, and that's about different, getting different innovations out there. So that would fund things like going and getting IP protection, patenting, that sort of thing, developing a particular innovation, testing it in market. Those sorts of things, there's often grants for that.
Yep.
There's also grants for export. There's the export market development grants. There's also grants for actually going overseas and participating in conferences or workshops to develop your skills and to create networks. There's a variety. There's a lot of small business grants as well. The federal government has a whole program, an entrepreneurial growth program, which is both cash or assistance. So it's not always money that grants are. So the federal government one has a combination where you can go and apply for this program, and they will give you training and advice and development and help you work up a business plan, etc. And then if it aligns to that plan, you can apply for funding for actual cash grants to deliver things that apply to that plan that you have developed with the federal government. So the federal government have quite a few. Each state government have their own. A lot of it is about regional. There's about economic development and job growth. There's also, for example, in WA, we have the regional economic development growth. So there are some that are location specific as well. And local governments also do the same. Some local governments will provide incentives as opposed to grants.
Yep.
So whether it's rates incentives or housing or whatever it is. So I do recommend that you actually have a chat to your local government and ask them, what incentives do you provide for businesses in our location? Do you have grants? Do you have incentives? What have you got? Because they want it's understanding their why. They want you to succeed. If you as a business in the local area are bringing in more money and creating more jobs, then they're getting more of a rates base. They want that. That's what local, state and federal all want. They want to help you to succeed. So it's not just grants. There are a lot of other
incentives,
things available for assistance available, but there is also money to help you to develop a market or a product or something like that.
Okay. Wow. We've covered so much this morning. And Tara and I have been talking over the last couple of weeks about, you don't know that you need a grant writer or you need grant assistance or you need a grant reviewed until you actually have a grant to apply for. So Tara has kindly offered all of you the opportunity to book into her calendar and have a chat with her. I've popped the link into both the live stream and the webinar. If you have any questions, guys, this is the time to ask us right now if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to ask Tara to wrap up with her top grant tips for you, so that we can all get back to our day. But I am seriously, if there's a question you have about grant writing, now I can only see the live stream. If you're watching the groups version, please come in and ask me here, because there's only so many windows and tabs I can have open at the one point in time. But I will just see if I can get into the group as well and have a look at the one we've shared. No, there's no questions on that I can see right now. But if you do need to, guys, please, just let us know. Let us know about questions, and Tara and I'll check in on the threads today as well if you're watching the replay over the next little while. So Tara, I'm just having a look. Nothing's coming on Facebook. Come on Zoom. Oh, yeah, we got one. Okay. So Kim has said, what are the innovation grants, and do they have to be fully unique to get in? Kim, are you talking about the ones in Queensland, the digital innovation? I'll just see if I can grab you the link for that one. I know I shared a BBB the other day.
Yes.
She's talking about those ones. Do you know much about those, Tara? I know when we said we weren't going to talk about specific grants.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'd have to look at the actual grant guidelines to know exactly what they're requiring. Usually with digital innovation type grants, there does have to be a uniqueness to it. If you're just doing the same thing that somebody's done before, then they're not particularly interested, unless you can demonstrate how it's unique to Queensland, for example, how it's going to really grow and develop things there. So you have a look at the grants guidelines and see what they specifically say. but don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call the assessor. So there will always be a contact detail for the assessors or for somebody that you can speak to about a particular grant. People seem to be afraid to call them, thinking that perhaps that will blacklist them, or maybe they, if they tell them what their grant idea is, then the assessor will go, oh no, that's not, you don't want that. Don't be afraid. Absolutely pick up the phone, because as a previous assessor, I would have loved it if some of these people had picked up the phone and called me and asked for my advice, so that I could have said, oh, wow, don't do it that way.
Don't do it this way, do it this way.
That's not going to get funded in any way. If you just tweak it slightly and say this instead, or do this slight different thing, then that would be an awesome project that we would really be interested in funding. So assessors want to give away the money. We have a certain bucket of money that is available for this particular purpose. We want to give it away. We just need really good projects to give it away to. So they will help you and guide you. If they can't answer a certain question, they will just say so. They'll say, look, it's not appropriate for me to comment on that. However, have a look at this, consider this. But yes, definitely pick up the phone if you're not sure if it's worth your effort putting the time in to write the grant. Pick up the phone, talk to them about your idea, and see if it fits within their thinking.
And see, guys, think outside this. Both Clive and I have had clients work with us who have applied for grants like the digital, and sorry, that was not digital innovation, that was digital grants, just about technology and digital within small businesses for less than 20 employees. Sorry, guys. But both of us have had people come and work with us so that we can teach them things like social media integration or business planning structure and those sorts of things under the right small business grants. So, if it's about growth and innovation, you can... Sometimes that coaching that you've been hanging out for is available within your grants. And, I say that to people, if there's coaching grants, find them, apply for them. You can't afford me, this is the way to get in. Not free money, but it is the way to get you put in the door. Jane's asked us a question. What do you suggest registered charities do if they want to apply for a grant but do not have DGR status?
Not all grants require DGR status. There are many grants that you don't need it at all. So have a look at the specific grant guidelines. What I recommend is, if you have a particular project in mind that you want funding for, then speak to a grant advisor, or like myself, or go through and have a look at the places that I've talked about to see what grants are available. Look at each of the grant guidelines and see whether or not they require that status. But a lot don't. There are a lot that all they require is that you be a not-for-profit, and then you're eligible for that grant. So every single grant has different eligibility. Some say you can't be a trust, some say you can be anything, some it's just you can't be an individual. Everyone differs. So just my advice is always to have your project planned, know exactly what it is you're trying to achieve, and then go searching for the right grant for you, because often it's there. You may have to wait, but as long as you have the project planned well and you know exactly what you're trying to achieve, you will eventually find the right grant.
Fantastic. That is awesome. Katrina, you're welcome. Katrina's just said thank you very much for the information. She was the one who asked our first question of today. Guys, we've got a few more minutes. If anyone else has any more questions to ask, please tap in to the mindset now. Tara, I'm thinking what we might do inside the BBB group today is we might actually start a dedicated grants thread. And this goes out to everyone else who's watching this webinar, watching the replay. I'm going to start a dedicated small business grants thread inside the group. If you find a grant today, or you find a grant over the next week, come in and contribute it to the thread. And then what I will also do is get one of our team to write that up into a big post as well. So we'll have it in the group, but this is all about the community coming together and doing what we do, which is learn, connecting, networking, and doing together, and popping the detail all into the business group about this. So being able to create a database to be able to help you. And I'm also going to throw Tara under the bus here and ask that she maybe writes a couple of tip articles for us to publish in Learn magazine as well, so that we can get out there. But that's all part of your PR boost that we're doing for you. We'll pop it in your content plan. It'll be great. But if anyone else has got looks like we're out of questions. Okay. Wow. That is great. Guys, once again, if you have any further questions about grant writing, please head to the link that I've popped in. I'll pop it in the replay for you as well, to book in a call with Tara, to take that conversation and have that questions, because as she said, hang on, we've got one more question coming in 2 seconds. As she said, if you don't ask the questions, you don't know. And, you know, sometimes it's about, you know, even if it is, what grants can I find in my area, that sort of stuff. Have the conversation. Katrina's looking to employ seasonal swim teaching work in regional areas. Are there grants suited to this area? I reckon there would be, but.
So there will be, because you're in a regional area. There's a lot more grants in regional areas than in metro areas. What there won't be, it's unlikely. If you frame it as you're looking to employ people purely, possibly not. But
I'm going to step in because I know Katrina's project, so I'll give you a little bit more information. Sorry, Katrina, I hope you don't mind, because she's on the Facebook. I can't bring her in to talk direct to us. So Katrina is a regional swim school, but her passion is about making sure that both parents and children know how to swim regionally. And when we're talking regional, we're talking really small country towns.
So there's always a Department of Sport and Rec, whatever the name is in the particular state, and their remit is to increase participation in sport. So that's the reason they exist. So there are always different types of grants depending on where you're located that are available to help people to participate more in sport. And usually there are regional ones specifically, because sport is such an important part of the regional community. So I can imagine there would be something, I don't know what area you're in, but there will be something potentially. What you need to do is frame it in a project, in terms of a project. So this is a project that I'm going to deliver that aims to teach swimming skills and increase participation in swimming to this particular area. And it's got all projects must have and all grants, they've got to have a beginning date and an end date and outcomes. So that's what you have to frame it as. It can't just be I'd like to increase the amount of lessons I do forever. It's got to be something that is a bit of a project. It's a beginning and an end and an outcomes.
I am going to with that too.
Sorry,
good statistics with that one as well.
Exactly.
So Katrina is in the Bendigo and further out region. Katrina, if you haven't seen it, the Active Living Survey is open right now. Those stats, once they release, will be huge, because council's obviously looking at getting people more active while they're doing the survey. So look at that, but also have a look at the previous Active Living Survey, because this is the second one I've seen since I've lived in Bendigo. So have a look at the previous Active Living summary and see if that can tap into, and even it might have some grants. Or just call council, they're not that scary.
But also that Active Living Survey, it completely feeds into your why. So when you're answering your why in a grant application, it helps to have statistics, it helps to refer to government reports, all that sort of stuff to back up your why, to demonstrate that there is a need for what it is you're going to do. You could grab so much out of that survey results.
There we go. Okay. We might call this a wrap and say, Tara, thank you very much for coming in and sharing all these tips on grants. I'm going to try and get this replay. I'll try and have it up by 6 o'clock tonight for everyone to come back and watch. We will put a dedicated thread all about grants and where to find grants and apply for grants, and make a bit of a work in progress post with inside the business group. We will then turn that into a blog post. I'll give it to one of my copywriting team to put together next week. They're sitting here throwing evil daggers at me already, I reckon. But it's going to be a really good post for us to be able to do all of that sort of stuff. We're just adding lots of stuff in. Now, guys, the things that I want to chat base with you today about, we have more coming up. Can you believe it? It's business time, and I'm back in the office, so there's lots happening. So next week we have our skills webinar with Renee Hasseldine, which is going to fit really, 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 really well into what Tara's just talking about delivering your programs, delivering all of those sorts of stuff. And Renee's actually teaching you about boosting your sales with the signature sales system. So I'm just popping the links into the details here. Now, the reason we want to be looking about this is I've seen Renee in work in both Adelaide and and a couple of other venues that we're talking about. The reason I want you to come in and have a good look at this one is Renee is also going to share with you the signature system that she puts together with you, something you can replicate, and it's going to give you surprisingly enough, the how, the what, the when, the where, and the why of what you're doing. So from a PR point of view, from a grant point of view, we love Renee's work, and it's all going to fit really, really well. So that's a really good webinar to register in next week and join us at 11 o'clock. The other thing that is coming to your desk this August, sounds like the same pitch I gave you last year, is the Small Business Skills Summit. And the Small Business Skills Summit will open, ticket sales will open on Friday for our waitlist people. So you are going to be the very, very first people to get access to it. No one else will get access to it until the following week. So what I'm going to do for you now is pop in the Small Business Skills Summit waitlist link as well, so that you can sign up for the waitlist for that one. We have got 11 presenters, 11 days, and 3 panels is what we're aiming to get together for you, all online from your desk. And Tara, being a regional business owner, you would know, just like I am, how sometimes it's hard to get to these conferences and get to these experts. So we've put them all into one place for you. So I am glad that everyone has had some great time with us today. Kim says, thanks guys, I have been after this kind of info for a while. Yay, so glad we could provide it to you. And once again, I do encourage you to take Tara up on the offer. Have a chat with her, have a chat about grants, talk about your specific situations. Maybe do a bit of research before you even get on the phone to her. Get it prepped, Tara. Do a little bit of research about these grants and what I'm looking for, but also talk to her people as well. And if nothing else, follow her on Facebook, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the newsletter, because you just never know when a grant that's going to suit you is going to come via her desk, and she's going to be able to tell you that it's there.
Yep, absolutely. Give us a call and I can go and have a look at my grants database for you if you want a specific grant.
Beautiful. Tara, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all again next week, guys. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.